You remember those purely social internet forums? If you don't, then this might seem weird to you, but back in the days before Facebook, MySpace, Instagram, or the word social network existed outside of lecture halls, if you wanted a place to hang out online that wasn't open to the public, then private message boards were pretty much your only decent option. So the story goes, in the early 90s, me and my old college buddies, we split the cost of the servers, got together, and I made us a private forum. And you can guess what happens next. The year goes on, and the forum gets a fair amount of use. Memories were made, users come and go, but eventually better social tools did take over and the forum gets mothballed. The last conversation I had on the old forum was about 10 years ago. I kept the site up and running all these years for a few reasons. One was to have a place to test stuff, and ended up using the server as a tool to teach my kids how to use computers properly. You guessed it, I'm a network admin. Skip to the present day, and about 4 weeks ago, you can imagine my surprise when I get an email informing me that new users are registering accounts on the forum. At first I figured it was some of the old guys coming back for nostalgia. I mean, you won't find the site on Google and the URL isn't something you would just guess either. So I logged myself in and went to check out the new thread. The subject line was a series of numbers. 1088A7, 7BR286, 33PZ00. I clicked on title to inspect the conversation, but there was only one post. A series of letters and numbers with spaces at random intervals, too long to post here. At first I thought it was just a prank, so I checked the admin log for IPs just to see who it was. Turns out my supposedly private forum had received 400 unique hits at the exact time of posting, from IP addresses all over the world. I should have known that, then something weird was going on, but I was curious and it felt like a puzzle I was being asked to solve. As I whacked my brain over the next few days, I began to research as much cryptography as possible, but whatever code these posts were in wasn't something I could just decipher. After about 3 days of searching, another post appeared, in much the same theme, and again there were about 400 unique hits at the time of posting that prevented me from finding the origin. This is when things began to take an even stranger turn. So far, the same user had posted each entry in the thread. A few hours after the second post, 5 other users started leaving messages, all of which were huge entries of letters and numbers. The post came flying in over a 4-hour period until they just stopped, and the server started going insane. CPU and RAM usage began to max out, but the traffic never changed. At that point, I had seen enough and pulled the plug on the server, assuming it was just being used as a Bitcoin miner, and forgot about the whole thing. The next day I got a text on my work phone. Turn on the server. I was more than a bit shaken, but I didn't do anything straight away as I was at work. A few hours after my lunch break, I was over and I got a Facebook message from my teenage son, which was unusual, so I checked it straight away. The message was a picture of his face from his laptop webcam along with our home address. If any of you have kids, you can imagine my calm and measured, hint it wasn't, reply. A few minutes later, my work phone started ringing with one of the support technicians' caller ID. But when I took the call, they weren't on the other end, and so to my surprise, it was the Stephen Hawking's voice speaking over to me on the line. The forum is being used for great things. Leave work, return to your family, and plug the server back in. You have 2 hours. I knew that was a threat, and I'm not an idiot, so I didn't take any chances. I raced back home, plugged the server back, and waited for a response. My personal phone buzzed this time with a new text message from my daughter. Well done. No more interference. We're waking up. Waking up? What the hell did that mean? I made myself a coffee and tried to log into the server, but I was locked out. Whatever was happening, they had full access to everything we owned, which shouldn't even be possible. The more I thought about it, the crazier my theories got, until eventually I realized whatever was happening was way beyond my capacity to deal with. You remember the old college buddies I set the forum up with? Well, yeah, one of them works for the NSA, and his name is Pete. I figured that if anybody would be willing to help me out with this, it would be him. I mean, I didn't trust local police to have the know-how, and the FBI doesn't exactly have a call here if you don't think the local police force have the ability to deal with your situation without getting your family killed hotline, you know. I just decided a way to contact him without them realizing what I'd done. I needed it. I knew I was traceable via my phone GPS, so they would know wherever I went with them. I also know my car would be tracked the same way, so I couldn't go anywhere with them. But I also couldn't leave them at the house or they might get suspicious. I had no idea to what extent they had access to CCTV around the area, or the other webcams in the house or at work either, so I had to make everything seem normal, but not too normal. I drove back to work with the phone, my work laptop, and a hoodie. When I arrived at the office, I sat at my desk, returned my devices to their usual places, and got back to work. When I was satisfied a believable amount of time had passed, I began Operation Call for Help. Step 1. I walked at a smooth and completely normal pace down the hallway and to the left where I entered a conveniently camera-free server room. Step 2. After entering the server room, I got changed into a hoodie and brought with me and limped out of the office. Hopefully with my head covered and my gait changed, they wouldn't recognize me through the outdated low-res Chinese cameras. Step 3. As soon as I got out of the office, I limped to the nearest bus station and took a ride to the nearest mall where my Oscar-winning Dr. House performance would take me to the nearest mobile store. With a piece of paper on, which I had written my friend's phone number, I quickly hobbled over to the men's bathroom, picked a stall, and made the call. The phone rang, then it rang again, and then I hit voicemail. No worries. Hang up and try again. No answer? Shit. It took 12 tries in the mall toilets before I got anywhere, and when I finally got through to him, he understandably wasn't very happy. Who the fuck is this, and why have you called me 12 times? I blurted out as much as I can in about 30 seconds. I even got as far as the weird code still being posted on the forum, then the son of a bitch hung up on me. I just sat there for a few seconds, stunned. I don't know what else to do, so I dialed in 911, but before I could put the call through, the burner phone rang. Unknown number. And it was Pete. He spoke very quietly down the line and told me he couldn't talk on his personal number, but that I did the right thing by calling him. I quietly picked up the story from where I had left off, leaving out no details. I feel sorry for the guy who sat in the other bathroom stall. He must have thought I was a maniac. After I finished, I felt the tone of the conversation change, and then it wasn't my turn to listen as he blurted out a ton of technical questions about the nature of the traffic and forum posts. I told him he could see the post for himself if he got onto the website, but he quite wisely told me that that would be a pretty bad idea. Any unexpected traffic that they spot would be a dead giveaway. I told someone that, this was happening. Then I asked what the hell he thought was happening. How could they even have found our old forum, let alone have the resources to infiltrate my life like this? He tried to bypass the question, but I kept pressing him. I figured my kids were in danger and had the right to know who the hell these people were, but he refused to answer and told me to head home. I refused to cooperate until I knew who was threatening my family. He said it's not a matter of who, it's a matter of what. That's all you need to know for your safety and mine. Agents will be at your house in a few hours, your family home, and we'll take it from there. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm a glorified network guy whose computer was probably hacked by well-informed Chinese kids somewhere. Now my family is being questioned by federal agents. And what the hell are these people, and why is the federal government getting involved so quickly? 2 hours later, there was a knock at the door. Outside was a white guy in a crisp blue suit and tie, and to his right was a black guy in a tan getup. Both were easily 6'5" and had little American flag pins on their collar, and I realized that I had walked into an episode of Homeland. The two introduced themselves as NSA agents, but I don't recall their names. I asked for ID and they presented their cards. I even made a note of taking down their agent numbers from my own records. After we'd exchanged pleasantries, I had made sure everyone was on their way home to talk to the two men. I went into the kitchen to make coffee. When I came back into the living room, the agents had already begun tearing the place apart. They took every device they could get their hands on, laptops, home PCs, TVs, and managed to stuff them all into the back of their car. It felt more like a robbery than police work. When they had finished, they returned to the house and sat with me in the living room. They had asked me a lot of personal questions about who my family was and how long it would take them to arrive. More than anything, it made me feel like they were more concerned about getting us all in the same room than helping us. The low buzz of their phones put an end to the barrage of questions. Simultaneously, they pulled the devices out of their pockets and exchanged an exasperated look with one another before thanking me for my time and rushing out the door, taking thousands of dollars of my equipment and personal items with them. Great. 10 minutes later, there was another knock on my door. Pretty shaken by the strange intrusion, I didn't even answer the door at first, but after the second, more intense knocking, I go and open it. In front of me were two men and a woman. Average height, nothing notable other than the badges in their hands. Our exchange went something like this. Sir, Pete informed us of the situation. Is it okay with you? We'd like to begin. Didn't you guys just send some people? I'm sorry, sir, we're it. But what about the other two you just left? I have their badge numbers written down over here. The agents at the door looked pale as I explained what had happened. Then I went pale as they explained that those two men hadn't even been sent by the government at all. They left soon after they realized everything of value had been taken, but assured me they'd be working the case in the meantime, and I haven't heard anything back from them since. I've been trying to get in touch with my buddy for weeks after what the hell had happened and whether I was safe, but he never picked up, and eventually, the number was disconnected. I even made the drive to his house, and when I got there, it was for sale, and him and his family were gone. I thought the nightmare was over, but last week I was followed on my way to work. I think my family might be in danger, so since then I finished building a new server. I'm going to put the forum back up and see what happens. So far all know is that there is something or someone out there using computer resources that have the intelligence to outsmart the NSA and the feds. What worries me most is that no one I've spoken to has any idea exactly what it's up to. I put my story out there in the hopes that I'll be able to give an update when this is all over, but if I don't, then I hope someone out there finds us and it helps them. Be careful out there on the web. That, ladies and gentlemen, was a person that used to run a dead internet message board. Now, for those people who don't recall internet message boards or BBS, it's old school stuff. Back then, internet message boards were pretty common before MySpace and things kicked up. A lot of private message boards. I usually favored a lot of the video game side ones until everything started hitting a more modern, personal social network, I guess you could say, Facebook and the like, YouTube and whatnot. Before all this, there was that, and in that regards, it is pretty freaking realistic in how it's portrayed. Now, do many of these exist that aren't easily accessible on Google? Yeah, a lot of these aren't, really picked up by a spider. So the reality of any message board existing created by somebody could happen, and it's not difficult to make. Anybody could really make a message board nowadays. The actual product that you can just post up to an HTTP site, anyways, like a domain, it's all easily accessible. You could do it on your own if you really wanted to. Now, this individual created a message board. We don't know exactly what the message board was primarily used for, but we know at one point, after several years, well past college, these people decided that, their message board is going to be used by this unknown party. Well, not decided, rather than this one curator who left it there just in the, sole purpose of having an experiment, realized that, at one point, people are going to come in just randomly. At first, maybe they thought for nostalgia, but it turned out to be a much more sinister reason. And that's where I think the story ends for me entirely. See, I'm all for these conspiracy-type stories. I love these Reddit-esque stories where you get them on No Sleep, where a lot of people really get into the personal side of detailing, the creepy aspects of their life. One of the best ones we've read is about the dead girlfriend that messages on Facebook, which was very well handled. Over here, it's more as if we're getting this spooky conspiracy, but we never really get much out of it. It's more so just, this is something spooky that's happening. We got a spooky society that's following you around, and that's about it. You have a person where a lot of resources are being used to put to track down and understand and really stalk this individual that isn't really special to begin with. They run an old server, and that's about it, an old message board server. We never really get a proper explanation as to why a message board server would be used, why exactly having 400 unique hits at that time is really something massive enough to worry about. And if the society is huge, why can't they make their own server? And that's about it. Place it somewhere else. They clearly have the resources to stalk the man, and that's about it. They have all the resources anyway. Why the hell would you follow this dude around? And then I think what kind of kills it for me too is that when they introduced the NSA and the FBI thing, I mean, it's not shitpasta territory, but it gets to some Mission Impossible level level segments where you can't help but to connect your palm to your face. It's one of those type stories. Now, it doesn't really devolve to the point where it makes it so cringy to the point that I just stop the VO entirely and completely axe the project. No, but it kind of gets there. Now, over here at the end, we encounter two people that are mocking themselves up as agents. They come inside, steal all the good stuff, all the electronics, take it away, presumably due to the fact that they don't want any evidence or any sites that they're tampering with any of that material, because they were clearly on the webcams riding around to look at the family, right? And when the actual agents show up, much later, about 10-20 minutes later, they realize, well, we screwed up royally. And that's where it sort of ends. The story is okay, but I think what kills it is the fact that I always say you gotta take your time with detailing what these stories are about. You gotta take your time. You have to talk about these stories appropriately, okay? You can't give too much and you can't give too little. There is that fine line of what you have to talk about, all right? When you introduce a spooky society, a creepy society rather, and you never build up to what it is or what their motives are. And when you actually detail the massive size and scope of what they do and how much resource they really have, it makes you wonder why they even need this small-time stuff to begin with. It makes you just wonder, and it sort of pulls you out of the experience entirely. You start asking way too many questions for your own good. An internet campfire story should just be one where you're engrossed listening rather than asking a million questions. But then again, that might just be me. So let me know what you think about the story. Let me know what you would change to make it better. As always, I do like hearing your output on what these stories can detail and what you would change to make them better. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. This has been another episode of Creepypastas, part of Haunted Gaming. This is me, Mudahar, and I am out.